My sister's fiancé mocked my little coding hobby and tried getting me a low-level job at his new company while my parents laughed along. Then he looked up the CEO on LinkedIn, and his face went white when he saw it was me. Hey, Reddit. Growing up, my parents made it very clear which kid mattered and which one didn't. I walked away, built something on my own, and cut contact completely. I thought that would be the end of it. I was wrong. Before I explain why, here's how it all started. My name is Aries. I'm in my early 30s now. I run a company that builds security systems for hospitals. I'm married to Ophelia, and we have a kid. That's my life now. This isn't about that. This is about how I left home and why I never went back. I grew up in a house where the clinic was literally attached to the living space. My dad, Harlan, was the doctor. My mom, Vivian, was the nurse and office manager. Patients came and went all day. Phones rang constantly. Charts everywhere. From the outside, it looked impressive. Inside, it was rigid and loud and always about status. By the time I was 12, I was the clinic's IT support. Not officially, obviously. But if the system froze, they called me. If the printer stopped working, they called me. When they upgraded computers, I set them up. I ran cables through walls. I fixed network drops. I cleaned malware off machines that shouldn't have been connected to the internet in the first place. I was never paid or thanked. It was treated like something I should just do. Whenever I tried to explain what I was actually learning, my dad would wave it off. It's just computers, he'd say. My mom would add, it's fine as a hobby. Dinner every night was the same conversation. Medical school rankings, residency programs. Who knew which specialist? Prestige mattered more than anything. It wasn't subtle who all of this was for. My older sister Rosalie was the center of the room. Everything she did was impressive. Every small achievement got praised. If she said she wanted to be a doctor, it was treated like destiny. If I talked about computers, the table went quiet until someone changed the subject. By the time she started medical school, their lawyer had already added her name to the clinic's ownership paperwork. The clinic was never just my parents' job in their eyes. It was Rosalie's inheritance. I wasn't ignored. I was used. By senior year of high school, I already knew I wasn't going to follow their plan. I applied quietly and got accepted into a strong computer science program. When the letter came, I didn't celebrate. I just folded it and waited. A few days later, they sat me down in the living room. Both of them. Rosalie wasn't there. Harlan didn't yell. He didn't have to. We'll pay for pre-med, he said. That's it. Vivian nodded like this had already been decided. If you want to play with computers, you can fund that yourself. That was the ultimatum. No negotiation. No curiosity about what I'd been working toward. Either I became what they wanted, or I stopped being their responsibility. So I started working. I freelanced every chance I got. Websites, small scripts, fixing broken systems for local businesses. I didn't sleep much. I saved everything. I built a custom PC piece by piece because I needed something reliable and fast. That machine mattered more to me than anything else in that house. On it, I finished an encryption project I'd been building for months. It wasn't a school assignment. It wasn't theoretical. It was practical and clean, and something I planned to sell to pay for tuition. It lived on that machine. I hadn't backed it up yet. I knew I should have. I was 2 days away from leaving. 2 days before I was supposed to get on the bus, Rosalie walked into my room. She was holding a bottle of dark red liquid. She tripped. That's what everyone called it later. The bottle tipped. The contents poured straight into my PC tower. There was a sound I still remember. A short crackle. Then nothing. The machine was dead. The drives were soaked. I tried anyway. Pulled parts out. Dried what I could. It didn't matter. The data was gone. Something in me snapped. I yelled. Not just at her. At everything. Years of being treated like background noise came out all at once. Rosalie started crying immediately. My parents rushed in. They didn't look at the computer. They didn't ask what was on it. They didn't care how long I'd worked on it. Vivian went straight to Rosalie and held her. She didn't mean it, she kept saying. Harlan turned to me instead. His face was hard. You made your sister cry, he said. That's enough. He didn't ask me to calm down. He didn't tell Rosalie to leave. He went to my room, grabbed my bag, and started throwing my stuff into it. Clothes, books, whatever was closest. Then he carried it outside and dropped it on the lawn. You're 18, he said. If you're so smart, figure it out. That was it. No discussion, no delay. I packed what was left. I checked my wallet. $40. That was all I had left in cash. The rest was tied to work. I hadn't finished and a project that no longer existed. I didn't say goodbye. No one stopped me. I walked to the bus station with my bag on my shoulder, $40 in my pocket, and a hard drive that might as well have been a brick. That was the day everything I'd built died. It was also the day I finally left. The first year after I left home wasn't dramatic. It was just hard. I worked 3 jobs. None of them were impressive. One was overnight stocking. One was basic tech support for a small office that didn't want to pay a real IT firm. The third changed, depending on who needed help that week. I slept in a rented room with 4 other guys. No lease, no privacy, no guarantee any of us would still be there next month. Nothing felt stable. I carried everything I owned in one bag and learned quickly not to get attached to anything. I didn't have a computer anymore, so I spent most nights at the public library. The computers there were slow and outdated, but they worked. I rebuilt what I could from memory. Some parts of my old project were gone for good. Other parts came back faster than I expected. Writing it again forced me to clean it up. Strip out anything unnecessary. Make it tighter. During the day, I took whatever freelance work I could find. At night, I rewrote code on borrowed machines and saved everything in multiple places. I didn't make that mistake again. It was during that time that I started noticing patterns. Medical offices were careless. Not just my parents' clinic, all of them. Shared passwords, unsecured terminals, outdated systems connected to networks they didn't understand. Patient data sitting on machines with no real protection. Everyone assumed nothing bad would happen because it hadn't yet. They were wrong. I didn't see it as an opportunity at first. It was just something that stood out. The more clinics and small hospitals I worked around, the more obvious it became. They spent millions on equipment and almost nothing on keeping their data safe. That's when I decided to stop freelancing and build something focused. I didn't want my name attached to it, not my real one. I didn't want anything leading back to my parents or their clinic, so I used my middle initial and shortened my last name. A J. Vance sounded neutral, professional, forgettable in the best way. I registered Vance Medical Systems under that name. At first, it wasn't much. I pitched small clinics on basic security audits, password policies, access controls, monitoring, things that should have already been in place. The contracts were small, but they mattered. Every one of them paid a bill, or kept me enrolled another semester. I went back to school slowly, paid for classes as I could, took fewer credits when money was tight and more when it wasn't. I didn't tell anyone about my family. It didn't come up. By the time I transferred into a full program, VMS was covering most of my expenses. I wasn't rich. I was careful. The work spread quietly. One clinic talked to another. A hospital administrator asked who had fixed a recent issue before it became a problem. I didn't advertise. I didn't want attention. I wanted control. The systems got better. The contracts got longer. I hired one person, then 2. Everyone signed strict agreements. Everyone understood discretion mattered. 5 years after I left home, I finished college. I skipped the ceremony, invited no one, picked up the degree, and went back to work. By then, VMS had moved past small clinics. Regional hospitals started calling, not because of marketing, but because nothing broke after we showed up. Problems got handled before anyone noticed. Most small practices never dealt with us directly. They signed contracts through regional IT firms that slapped their own logos on everything. Our name sat in small print on the back pages, under licensed vendor. Owners skimmed the invoices, saw the local company, and stopped reading. Teaching hospitals came next. Their program directors sat in on our security reviews because losing access to patient records even for a day could cripple their residency programs. I stayed out of the press on purpose. No interviews, no photos. The company website listed the leadership team, but most people didn't look closely. I wanted AJ Vance to exist as a professional entity, not a person anyone felt entitled to. That decision paid off more than once. I met Ophelia during that period. She was a litigator working long hours and didn't ask questions she didn't need answers to. We talked about work, about boundaries, about not letting other people rewrite your life. I told her everything early on, about my parents, about Rosalie, about the name change. She didn't react the way most people did. She just asked what I needed to keep separate and helped make sure it stayed that way. When we got married, nothing changed about the business. She kept her career. I kept mine. We kept our lines clear. By the time VMS became a known name in hospital cybersecurity, my parents were already out of my life completely. I didn't track what they were doing. I didn't need to. I had built something that didn't depend on them and never would. I was stable. The company was solid. My personal life was quiet in a way I'd never had growing up. I stopped thinking about my family at all, right up until the invitation showed up. The state medical gala wasn't something I would have gone to on my own. Events like that never were. Too many people talking over each other. Too much forced politeness. But Vance Medical Systems had just secured a state-level contract for centralized hospital data protection, and this was part of the follow-up. Appearances mattered, so Ophelia and I went. The hotel was the kind that liked reminding you it was expensive. Long red carpet out front, security in suits, photographers catching anyone who looked important enough. Inside, everything was marble, glass, and low lighting. Doctors in tailored jackets, administrators wearing badges that cost more than my first month of rent after I left home. I was there strictly for work. Shake a few hands, exchange cards, leave. I didn't expect anything else. We checked in and walked toward the main lobby, where people were gathering before heading into the ballroom. Conversations overlapped. Someone was already bragging about a new wing opening at their hospital. Someone else complained about staffing shortages, like it was a personal inconvenience. Ophelia leaned in slightly and said, "Want to make a lap and disappear?" "Let's see who we need to see first," I said. That's when I noticed them. Vivian and Harlan were standing near the entrance, both dressed like they were still trying to prove something. Harlan wore the same posture he always had, chin slightly lifted, shoulders stiff. Vivian was scanning the room, eyes moving quickly, already measuring who mattered. They looked older. Not fragile, just worn around the edges, still playing the same role. And between them was Rosalie. She was dressed in something expensive. I didn't know the brand, but I could tell. Hair done, makeup sharp, the kind of confidence that comes from believing the room owes you attention. She was laughing at something Harlan said, one hand resting lightly on his arm. I stopped walking without realizing it. Ophelia felt it and followed my line of sight. "That them?" she asked quietly. "Yeah," I said. She didn't say anything else. She just nodded once. I considered turning around. Nothing in my schedule required me to be in that exact spot. But before I could move, a man stepped in front of me. "Excuse me," he said, holding out his hand. "George Miller." I shook it. "Aries." He smiled, friendly, already in networking mode. "First time here?" "I don't think we've met." "Possibly," I said. "I'm with VMS." George nodded, interested. Behind him, my parents were already half tuned out. To them, with VMS might as well have been with it or with some vendor. Anything outside medicine blurred into background noise. His eyes lit up a bit. "Ah, well, congratulations. That contract announcement made waves. I'm one of the donors for St. Ravelin. I've been meaning to meet someone from your team." He turned slightly, gesturing behind him. "I'd love to introduce you to George." Harlan's voice cut in sharply. He stepped between us like he'd been there the whole time. Vivian followed, her expression already tight. "Don't bother," Harlan said, waving a hand dismissively. "That's my son." George looked confused. "Oh, I didn't realize—" "He's in IT," Harlan continued. "Always has been. He's probably here to fix the Wi-Fi or something." Rosalie smiled like it was a joke everyone was supposed to laugh at. George glanced at me, unsure how to recover. "I see. Well, it's fine," I said, keeping my voice even. Harlan looked surprised I spoke at all. Vivian leaned in, lowering her voice like she was doing me a favor. "You shouldn't be wandering around like this. People will get the wrong idea." Rosalie tilted her head. "Seriously, Aries, this isn't really your scene." Ophelia shifted slightly beside me, but didn't say anything. I could feel her watching everything, filing it away. George cleared his throat. "Well, I should be going. Nice meeting you," he said, though his eyes stayed on me a moment longer. He walked off, clearly unsettled. Harlan crossed his arms. "What are you doing here?" "Work," I said. Vivian frowned. "What kind of work?" Before I could answer, someone called Harlan's name from across the lobby. He turned immediately, the question forgotten. Rosalie glanced between me and Ophelia, her smile tightening. "Enjoy the night," she said, like it was a warning. They moved away, already re-entering their world. Ophelia finally spoke once they were gone. "They really don't know, do they?" "No," I said. She nodded again, calm. "Okay." We stood there for a moment as the lobby buzzed around us. People passed by without a second glance. Music from the ballroom started up in the distance. "Want to leave?" she asked. "Not yet," I said. "We'll finish what we came for." She squeezed my hand once, subtle, then let go. I didn't know it then, but the night wasn't even close to over. We hadn't even made it into the ballroom yet when Rosalie came back. This time, she wasn't alone. She had a man with her, tall and sharp-looking, hair styled carefully, posture stiff in a way that felt practiced. He wore his confidence like it had been drilled into him during rounds. The badge clipped to his jacket read Sean R., with surgical resident printed underneath. Rosalie's hand was wrapped tightly around his arm. There you are, she said, her smile wide and deliberate. I wanted you to meet someone. And she turned slightly toward him. This is my fiancé, Sean. Sean nodded once at me, his eyes moving quickly over Ophelia and then back to me. The look lingered just long enough to be noticed. Nice to meet you, he said. His tone was polite but empty. Likewise, I replied. Rosalie didn't wait. She leaned in closer to me, lowering her voice like this was a secret she couldn't wait to share. Sean just got hired at VMS, she said. Full integration team. It's huge. She said it slowly, watching my face for a reaction. He's going places, she added. Real places. Ophelia stayed beside me, calm, her expression unreadable. Sean stepped forward, clearly happy to take over. Yeah, he said, smiling. VMS is kind of the future right now. Everyone in healthcare is talking about it. He laughed lightly. Honestly, it's refreshing to be around people who actually matter in the system. Rosalie nodded enthusiastically. Exactly. Sean turned to me again. So, what do you do these days? I run a company, I said. Rosalie let out a small laugh. He means he fixes computers. He's always been into that. Sean chuckled, shaking his head. Hey, someone's got to keep the lights on, right? He glanced at Ophelia, then back at me. Must be nice, though. Low stress. Ophelia raised an eyebrow slightly. I wouldn't call it that. Sean smiled at her, thin and dismissive. You're his wife, right? Yes, she said. Ah, he replied. That explains it. Explains what? Ophelia asked. He waved a hand casually. Supporting roles. Every system has them. Rosalie laughed again, louder this time. See? He's already thinking like an executive. Sean straightened. I'm actually meeting the VMS CEO tonight. Guy's basically a legend. Silent type. Brilliant. Built the whole thing from scratch. He looked at me again. Total opposite of most people who try to get into tech. Rosalie tilted her head toward me. You should hear how competitive it was. They barely take anyone without serious credentials. Ophelia crossed her arms, still composed. And yet you had time to gossip about him before meeting the CEO. Sean smirked. When you're at a certain level, you learn how to multitask. He reached into his jacket and pulled out a business card, holding it between his fingers. Here, he said, handing it to me. I'll be honest. VMS always needs low-level tech support in new wings. Cabling, troubleshooting, that kind of thing. Rosalie watched closely, pleased. I can put in a word, Sean continued. Get you an interview. Just don't embarrass me. He glanced at Ophelia. And dress professionally. First impressions matter in places like this. Ophelia didn't respond. She didn't need to. I took the card. The logo in the corner caught my eye immediately. Clean lines. Subtle symmetry. The mark I'd approved years ago. Vance Medical Systems. Sean kept talking, unaware. Honestly, he said, it's good you showed up tonight. Networking is everything. You can't stay in the background forever. Rosalie smiled like she'd won something. See, Aries, I told you coming was a good idea. I looked down at the card again. Same font, same branding, same contact template I'd signed off on myself. I folded it once and slid it into my pocket. Thanks, I said. Sean nodded, satisfied. No problem. I like helping people who know their place. Rosalie leaned closer to Ophelia and said quietly, not quiet enough. Must be hard, honestly. Marrying someone with no direction. Ophelia met her eyes. I'm doing fine. Sean checked his watch. I should go find the CEO. Big night. He turned back to me one last time. Think about what I said. They walked off together, Rosalie holding his arm like a trophy. Ophelia exhaled slowly once they were out of earshot. That was something. I pulled the card back out and turned it over. Same logo, same company. My company. I didn't say anything yet, but the night had finally started moving. Sean didn't walk away immediately. After the exchange earlier, he stayed a few steps ahead of Rosalie, scanning the room with that focused look people get when they're hunting for someone important. He kept adjusting his jacket, checking his phone, rehearsing something under his breath. Ophelia leaned closer to me. He's trying to make an impression. I know, I said. A few minutes later, Sean circled back. This time, his tone was different. Less smug, more deliberate. Hey, he said, nodding toward me. Quick thing. Rosalie frowned. What now? Sean ignored her. You said earlier you run a company. What was the name again? I didn't answer right away. He continued, clearly thinking out loud. The CEO of VMS likes to know who's talking about him. Names matter. I don't want to walk up there and sound sloppy. Rosalie laughed. You don't need to explain yourself to him. Sean waved her off. No, I do. That's how this works. He looked at me again. So? Vance Medical Systems, I said. Same one you work for. That's not what I meant, Rosalie snapped. His personal company. The small one. Sean hesitated. What's your name again? Aries, I said. Last name? I gave it to him. Sean nodded slowly. All right, let me just check something. He pulled out his phone, already opening LinkedIn. This time it wasn't defensive, it was practical. He typed quickly, confident this would clear things up. Aries, no result. He frowned slightly, then added a filter. Still nothing useful. Rosalie smirked. See? Sean paused. You said earlier the CEO doesn't like embarrassment. Yes, I said. He looked up at me. You weren't joking. I wasn't. Something in my tone made him look back down at the phone. He deleted the name and typed something else. A J. Vance. The screen loaded. The change in his expression was immediate. He didn't scroll right away. He just stared. Rosalie leaned in, impatient. What are you doing? Sean swallowed and turned the phone slightly away from her, like he needed a second. Then he scrolled. The profile photo filled the screen. Clean background. Neutral expression. The same face he'd been talking to all night. The title sat right under it. Founder and CEO. Vance Medical Systems Verified. His thumb froze mid-scroll. Sean? Rosalie said. What is it? She leaned in and saw the screen. She laughed. Oh my God, that's fake. Vivian had moved closer again, drawn by the tension. What's going on now? Harlan followed, irritation already written on his face. Sean didn't answer right away. He scrolled again, slower this time. Company timeline, board roles, industry affiliations, all consistent. This is verified, he said quietly. Vivian's expression hardened. Anyone can fake those things. No, Sean said. Not like this. Harlan snapped. Are you saying my son? I'm saying the CEO's profile matches him, Sean said, cutting himself off mid-sentence. Rosalie shook her head. You're letting him mess with you. I'm not, Sean said. I'm checking. He opened the company page directly. Same logo, same branding. Leadership section. There it was again. The room seemed to tighten around us. I didn't say anything. Sean looked up at me slowly. You're AJ Vance. Yes, I said. Rosalie scoffed. You really expect us to believe that? Vivian stepped forward. This is inappropriate. You've caused enough trouble tonight. I didn't bring this up, I said. He did. Harlan pointed at me. You've always had an issue with pretending you're more important than you are. Sean's voice was barely steady now. Sir, this isn't pretending. He turned the phone toward them. Harlan glanced at the screen and frowned. So what? Someone used his picture. Look at the verification, Sean said. Look at the endorsements. Vivian's mouth tightened. This is ridiculous. Sean looked back at me. I told you I was meeting the CEO tonight. You are? I said. Rosalie took a step back. Stop it. Sean's breathing had changed. Shorter now. I offered you a job. Yes, I said. A low-level one, he added, almost embarrassed to say it out loud. Yes. He stared at the phone again. I spoke for you. Yes. Silence settled in. People nearby were starting to notice, even if they didn't understand why. Rosalie's voice cracked. Say something. Tell him this is a joke. I didn't. Vivienne looked between us. Aries. I met her eyes. You don't get to call me that anymore. Rosalie stood there, pale and shaking, staring at me like the room had tilted and never settled back. And we still hadn't even made it into the ballroom. The flow of guests shifted as the doors to the ballroom opened. Music drifted out, low and formal. A few people glanced our way, sensing something was off. That's when the attention changed. A man in a dark suit approached from the opposite side of the lobby, moving with purpose. People stepped aside for him without thinking. Conversations paused and restarted after he passed. Ophelia leaned toward me. That's him, isn't it? I nodded. Yes. The state health secretary stopped in front of me and smiled. AJ, he said, extending his hand. There you are. I was wondering when I'd run into you. I shook his hand. Good evening. Congratulations, he continued, loud enough for those nearby to hear. The final review cleared this morning. We're ready to sign the contract whenever you are. Sean froze. Vivian's mouth opened slightly, then closed again. Harlan's face drained of color. The secretary glanced around, noticing the tension. I hope I'm not interrupting. No, I said. Just catching up. He followed my line of sight to my parents and Rosalie. Family? I nodded once. Yes. Rosalie's hands were shaking now. She tried to hide them by clasping them together, but it didn't work. Her eyes flicked between me and the secretary, like she was trying to wake up from something. Well, the secretary said, smiling politely at them. You must be proud. Vance Medical Systems has become a cornerstone of the state's healthcare infrastructure. Vivienne didn't respond. Harlan swallowed hard. The secretary turned back to me. I'll see you inside, AJ. I'll be there shortly, I said. As he walked away, the space around us felt suddenly too open. No one spoke for a moment. Then Sean broke the silence. Secretary, he said. Too late. The man didn't turn back. Rosalie finally found her voice. You planned this, she said, pointing at me. I didn't, I replied. Vivian stepped forward. You let us make fools of ourselves. You did that on your own, I said. Harlan's voice was tight. You could have said something earlier. I didn't need to. Sean cleared his throat. AJ. I raised a hand slightly, stopping him. I'm going to be clear, I said, keeping my voice steady. You work for VMS. You were hired based on your credentials. That doesn't change. He nodded quickly. Of course. But, I continued, your offer included a leadership track. Rosalie looked up sharply. What offer? Sean glanced at her, then back at me. That part is revoked, I said. Effective immediately. His face fell. Because of what I said? Because of how you said it, I replied. And who you said it to? I didn't know, he said. You assumed, I said. That matters here. Rosalie stepped between us. You can't do that. He earned that position. I can, I said. And I just did. Sean looked like he wanted to argue, then thought better of it. I understand, he said quietly. I turned to Harlan. Your clinic is 3 months behind on its VMS licensing fees, I said. You should check your portal. Vivian stiffened. We pay our bills. The invoices say otherwise, I replied. Your access is still active, but that won't last. Harlan clenched his jaw. You're threatening us. No, I said. I'm informing you. Rosalie laughed weakly. This is unbelievable. It's accurate, I said. I felt Ophelia's hand brush my arm, not pulling me away, just reminding me she was there. I think we're done here, I said. Vivian looked like she wanted to say something else. Apologize, maybe? Or accuse me again. Nothing came out. Sean stepped back, giving me space. I'll be ready Monday, he said. Yes, I replied. You start Monday. He nodded once. I turned and walked away. Ophelia matched my pace without a word. We didn't rush. We didn't look back. As we passed into the ballroom, conversations resumed around us like nothing had happened. Music swelled. Glasses clinked. Hours later, when we finally stepped back outside, the doors closed softly behind us. Ophelia exhaled as we reached the car. That was worse than I expected. It's over, I said. For tonight, she replied. She was right, but the lines had been drawn, and everyone involved finally knew where they stood. We drove away without saying anything else. 2 weeks after the gala, my assistant forwarded me an email marked urgent. It wasn't from my parents directly. It was from a small regional IT firm asking if Vance Medical Systems was aware of a breach affecting one of our licensed clinics. The clinic address looked familiar. I ignored the emails and logged into the internal dashboard instead. Their system was locked, not partially, fully. Patient records inaccessible. Scheduling down, billing frozen. The clinic portal showed repeated failed authentication attempts followed by a hard lock. Whoever hit them knew exactly where to push. It wasn't subtle and it wasn't random. By the end of the day, 3 more emails came in. One from the same firm. One from a medical supply vendor asking why orders were failing. One from a hospital administrator who worked near their clinic, asking quietly if I knew what was going on. Even then, I did not reach out. They came to me the next morning. My office is on the top floor of a glass building downtown. Clean. Quiet. No plaques on the wall, no family photos out front, just space and light. Security checked them in before I even knew they were there. My assistant knocked once. Your family is here. I nodded. Send them in. Vivian, Harlan, and Rosalie walked in together. They looked different than they had at the gala. Not dressed down, exactly, but worn. Vivian's posture was tense. Harlan looked tired in a way I'd never seen growing up. Rosalie kept glancing around the office like she was trying to find something solid to hold on to. No one sat until I did. Harlan spoke first. We need help. Vivian jumped in quickly. Our systems are down, completely. Patients can't be seen. Records are locked. Rosalie's voice cracked. They're saying we could lose accreditation. I waited. We know we're behind on licensing, Vivian said. We meant to fix that. They'd signed with us through a local IT company years ago. Their logo was the one on the door stickers and the invoices in big letters. Vance Medical Systems was a line item in the middle of the contract. Small font, buried between hardware serial numbers and service codes. They'd never bothered to read that far. Harlan nodded. This is bigger than that. This is an attack. Yes, I said. It is. Rosalie stepped forward. You can fix this. You have to. Sit, I said. They sat. Vivian clasped her hands together. We wouldn't be here if we had another option. You do, I said. Several. Harlan frowned. Not like this. The room stayed quiet for a moment. Then Vivian tried a different angle. We're your parents. I looked at her. You're the owners of a clinic that violated its licensing agreement. Rosalie's eyes filled. If the clinic shuts down, my residency, that's not my responsibility, I said. Harlan leaned forward. You don't understand what this will do to us. I understand exactly what it will do, I replied. Vivian's voice softened. We raised you. I didn't respond. Rosalie wiped her face. We made mistakes, but this is too far. This, I said, is the result of choices. Harlan exhaled sharply. So you're just going to watch us lose everything? No, I said. I'm going to make an offer. I pressed a button on my desk. My assistant entered and placed a folder in front of me. I slid it across the table. Vivian opened it first. She read silently for a few seconds, then looked up. What is this? A purchase agreement, I said. Vance Medical Systems will acquire the clinic. Harlan flipped through the pages. This valuation is accurate, I said, given your current exposure. Rosalie leaned in. You're buying it? Yes. Vivian shook her head. For this price? That's nothing. It's what it's worth today, I said. Tomorrow it will be less. Harlan's jaw tightened. And if we don't sign? Then I don't intervene, I said. Your systems remain locked. Regulators step in. The outcome is out of my hands. Rosalie looked at Vivian. Mom! Vivian raised a hand to stop her. She scanned the document again. What happens to us? You retire, I said. Both of you. Immediately. Harlan looked like he wanted to argue, then stopped. And the staff? Retained, I said. Under new management. Rosalie flipped to the last page. And me? I met her eyes. After this, your program director will formalize a transfer. Her face drained. Transfer where? To a rural hospital, I said. They are short on residents and very motivated to keep our system stable. You will finish your training there. That's punishment, she said. It's placement, I replied. Vivian's voice rose. You're tearing our family apart. There hasn't been a family in a long time, I said. Harlan leaned back in his chair. You planned this? No, I said. I prepared for it. The room went quiet again. Vivian closed the folder slowly. If you fix the systems, I will, I said. Immediately after signing, Rosalie stood up. You can't expect us to agree to this. Harlan stood as well, pacing once, then stopping. We don't have a choice. Vivian stared at the papers. Her hands were shaking now. You could have just helped. I am helping, I said. She looked up at me. By taking everything. By stabilizing it, I said. Rosalie sank back into her chair. This ruins me. No, I said. It humbles you. Harlan rubbed his face. If we sign, this ends today? Yes. And the attack? Vivian asked. Contained within the hour, I said. Systems restored. Data intact. They looked at each other. No one apologized. No one asked for forgiveness. Vivian reached for the pen. She hesitated, then signed. Harlan followed. Rosalie stared at the signature line for a long time before adding her name. I stood and pressed the button on my desk again. Execute the response plan. My assistant nodded and left. Vivian closed her eyes. So that's it? Yes, I said. They stood slowly, like their legs weren't sure anymore. Harlan paused at the door. You always were stubborn. I didn't answer. They left without looking back. An hour later, the clinic's systems were live again. Orders resumed, schedules unlocked. Regulators were notified of the ownership change. I went home on time that day. Ophelia was already there, sitting at the kitchen table with our daughter, helping her color. You okay? She asked. Yes, I said. She nodded and went back to the crayons. 3 months after the buyout, the clinic reopened under the VMS name. New staff, new systems, new policies. The old signage came down in one afternoon. Rosalie reported to her rural residency the following week. Vivian and Harlan turned in their badges and left the building quietly. I did not attend the reopening. I spent the morning taking my daughter to school, then went back to work. Around noon, Ophelia dropped off lunch, left it on my desk, kissed my cheek, and headed to court. The clinic ran smoothly. The calls slowed. The paperwork cleared, and life moved forward. If you enjoyed this video, please hit that subscribe button. It really helps the channel and help us bring you more and better stories. Thanks.